Where do you stand on the 20-minute red card? Because France have made their feelings known on moving it forward to global trials starting in January. There's a vote at World Rugby next month, and France are going to say no. They are dead against it, firmly opposed. So it's an interesting conversation. Let's have it right now. I'd love to get your thoughts in the comments down below. Where do you stand? Who's right? There feels to be a bit of a north-south rift building at the minute on this particular debate. Not for the first time in rugby, a north-south divide. Here we go again. Where do you stand? Comments down below. I'd love it if I would earn your subscription, and you can really help spread the word of the channel because it is just me. I'm completely on my own, do it all on my own, and just dropping a thumbs up really helps. So thank you for that. I'm Tim and this is Egg Chasers. And I will say at the end of this video, do watch to the end because I'm going to raise something that, as far as I'm aware, no one else in rugby is talking about. And it's so obvious on this particular topic that it blows my mind no one's talking about it. I'm going to bring it up again. But let's get to this topic first then. So France are dead against moving the 20-minute red card trials from what have they been used in so far? The World Under-20s Championship and the Rugby Championship. And now World Rugby is saying, let's move it forward. France have said no. Australia and New Zealand strongly in favour. They've been desperate to get this through for ages now, and it feels a little bit like their Southern Hemisphere brethren, Argentina and South Africa. If I had to summarise the way they feel about it, it seems to be like they're going, okay, if you feel really strongly about it, Australia and New Zealand, we're not going to stand in your way. Go on then. But France, no. I don't know how kind of most of the rest of the world feels about it, and I want to know how you feel about it more importantly. France have given two reasons for their opposition. First reason, there's not enough data yet. Yes, it's been used in the Rugby Championship or the World Under-20 World Championships, but it hasn't been used enough or for long enough to work out whether it's justifiable to take it on to the next step. And on that point, I 100% agree with France. Generally, World Rugby tinker way too much with the laws. You never seem to be able to have 6 months go by without them suggesting another bunch of laws that need to be introduced. And it's a little bit like trying to plug holes in a boat with World Rugby. They go, yeah, we've got the solution for that problem there. Put the finger in a hole and then 3 other holes start pouring water in. I don't know if that analogy works, but you know what I mean. The law of unintended consequences. Yes, they solve one problem, but in doing so, they cause 3 other problems that they hadn't thought about. And so I'm sympathetic to France's point there. Just wait, take your time. Let's wait and see if this really works before we push it on to the next step. I agree with that. The second point that France bring, I completely disagree with. France have said that the red card is a crucial tool that deters unsportsmanlike behaviour and protects the physical integrity of players. They say that a 20-minute red card could encourage dangerous behaviour, compromise player safety, which is the top priority. They think it would be a step backwards in terms of player welfare. Totally disagree with that. Firstly, France, safety is your top priority. No, it's not. You're involved in rugby union, which is a dangerous sport. It's gladiatorial and physical in its nature. Injuries happen, accidents happen. The danger is the reason why people play it. The danger is the reason why people watch it. The danger is the reason why people love rugby. So safety cannot be your top priority. If safety was your top priority, you wouldn't play rugby. Making an entertaining product on the field is your top priority. Making sure people enjoy rugby is your top priority. And it is also important within that context, accepting it's dangerous, to try and limit the damage and danger and accidents and all the rest of it. And rugby does a brilliant job at that. But France, safety is not your top priority. That's just not the case. Secondly, the thought that because there's a 20-minute red card, people are going to go out and suddenly start punching and kicking people and stamping and gouging. Really? Does anyone actually think that's what's going to happen? There's cameras everywhere, and the sanctions for those type of offences are so severe that players don't do it anymore. So just introducing a 20-minute red card is not going to change that, in my humble opinion. If you think I've got that wrong, let me know. France seem to think that it is going to make a difference. I just don't. Because, I mean, there are examples of players who... This is the last time Paul Willemse will play for France, when he got a red card in the Six Nations against Ireland. I mean, has he retired now since then? That was the last time he ever played for France. Getting a red card and leaving the field permanently for that match and getting a ban can be the end of your international career. It can mean, if you get a long ban, you don't get a contract from your club for the next season. The consequences are massive. To think that players are going to start doing dangerous things because of a 20-minute red card, not having it. So currently we have, and this is the other reason why France are wrong on that point, we have a yellow and a red card at the minute, but under the 20-minute red card law trials that we've already had, a straight red card still exists. So there's a yellow card, there's a 20-minute red card, where the player that gets carded doesn't come back on, but another player comes back on after 20 minutes. But there is a straight red card for things like punching and kicking, which the referee can still give. Now, I would just say this is an example of rugby being confusing when it doesn't need to be. Two different types of red card, but they're both a red card. Doesn't make any sense. I get that you want to have a bit of a distinction between an accidental high tackle and a deliberate punch to the face. But these sort of things, as I say, happen so rarely now that you can name the times that they've happened. That is just confusing. Why not, if you're going to do this, why not just do what some people have suggested and just have an orange card? At least that makes it simpler, doesn't it? Rugby is so guilty of making things unnecessarily complicated. A red card that can mean two different things. Just have an orange card. Or whatever, pick a colour, doesn't really matter. But just, there you go. That makes it simpler, doesn't it? Now, what would I do? I want to know what you think in the comments down below. Tell me what you would do. What would I do? I think there's an argument for this, where a yellow card means 10 minutes and a red card means 20 minutes. A yellow card means the player the offending player can come back on, and a red card means the offending player can't come back on. What do you think of that? I think there's an argument of that, and that's because my general thought is keep 15 against 15 wherever possible. So I think that might be a shout. I appreciate some people might think, no, you need to have a straight red card as a sanction for things like punching and kicking and stamping and all the rest of it. And I'm sympathetic to that, so I'll come back to that in just a minute. But one thing I do want to say, and this is the thing that no one else in rugby is talking about, and maybe that's because I'm completely wrong on this, and I'm happy for you to tell me, but I don't understand why 2 yellow cards equals a red card in rugby. Why? Well, let me give you a scenario. This doesn't happen very often, but it happens. A player gets given a yellow card for a high tackle. Not too dangerous, like it was shoulder high, but dangerous enough to get a yellow card. Go off for 10 minutes, fine, come back on. A few minutes later, a team is camped on their own line and they're giving away several penalties, and the referee gives a warning and says, next penalty, a player's going off. And it just so happens that player that's just come back on from the yellow card is the next player to give away a penalty, a team yellow card. He gets the yellow card, and then the team go down to 14 men for the rest of the match. Make that make sense. A yellow card is a 10-minute sin bin offence. So if a player gets 2 yellow cards, it should still just be 10 minutes. You could have it that player cannot come back on the field if they get 2 yellow cards, but they should be able to be replaced after 10 minutes. They shouldn't go the rest of the game a man down. So that just, to me, that makes sense. Because the only reason why yellow cards and 2 yellow cards equal a red in rugby is because we copied it from football. But in football, when you get a yellow card, that's a warning, but you don't have a sin bin. Whereas in rugby, we have a sin bin, so it doesn't make sense to me. Back to the point about people wanting a card to mean something that you can't come back on if you go and punch or kick or something. You need to have that sanction. Fine. Well, going back to that orange card idea, because 2 different red cards and meaning 2 different things doesn't make sense. What about this? A yellow card is a 10-minute sin bin. The same player can return. If they get a second yellow, it's still only 10 minutes, but the same player can't return, as I've said. The orange card is the 20-minute red card, 20-minute sin bin, and then that player cannot return to the field, but another player can. And then a red card is a permanent sin bin. The same player cannot return or be replaced. And that would be reserved for the most egregious foul play, like punching, gouging, kicking, that stamping, that sort of thing. But since that never, ever happens, I don't think this is needed. I would go, yellow card is 10 minutes, red card is 20 minutes. Let's all get on with the game and keep 15v15 as much as we possibly can. France don't agree with that. You might not agree with that. A lot of people might not agree. But it's an interesting talking point. It'd be boring if we all thought the same thing, wouldn't it? Point is, this is going to get voted on at the World Rugby Council meeting next month. It's going to be interesting to see who wins that vote. I think France might be on the losing side of it on that occasion. But We will see. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I'm going to be very curious to see what you have to say about that. See if anyone... It is a test for the channel. Do I actually have any influence? Does anyone start talking about 2 yellow cards equaling a red card being ridiculous? Probably not, but I'm glad I've got you watching, and that's the main thing. So thank you, and I'll see you on the next one.